In this video we are going to have a go at repairing the rear hydraulic strut on this beautiful SL55 AMG, and in order to do so what we're going to have to do is take out all of this boot lining here and put this boot lid here into what's called service mode, where it kind of hovers up in the air, and that should allow us to get to the strut. Yeah, now in the previous video we used the iSoft car scanner to actually diagnose the fault, and that's telling us that the problem is with the height sensor in that strut. So we've bought one of those from a company in Holland that refurbishes them, and we're going to be aiming to fix that and get rid of that ABC fault. Now the very first thing to do after you've taken out the center panels here is to remove this piece here. Now this piece here, when you pull it forward, clicks into a little switch here. So as soon as you take this out, you're going to have to clamp or wedge something in there to fool the car to think that that's in place, because after you've taken that out, you're then going to electronically open the hood until the boot is in about this position here, and then use the metal key on your key fob to unlock it, and that will put it into service mode. Now this cover here is held on by 5 pop buttons here. You just put your hand behind and snap them open like so. And then there are 2 little, now to get these little fittings here out, there's a center bit that you have to pull out first, and the center bit basically spreads the internal fitting there. So don't ever try and wedge these out from underneath there, you'll just end up damaging it. You have to take out this center pin first. Now if those have never been out before, they can be really difficult to get out, but just do persevere. You can maybe use some needle nose pliers or maybe some scissors to help, but try and work slowly so to avoid damaging something. And when you've taken them out, put them back in there so they don't get lost. The next thing you've got to do is take these clips off, and it is extremely easy to break those clips. This one was already broken, but this is the shape of the clips here. So they're basically gonna, this long bit is very easy to snap it just here at this point here. There's only 2 little clips holding that on the back, but as I say, it is extremely difficult to get those off without breaking that. Breaking as well. There you go. So there's a very distinct weak point there, but it is possible to get those off without breaking them, but you have to be careful. Once you've got those off, you can undo these 2 screws here, and that should allow you to lift this piece out. Now these are star head screws here, and a long time ago I got myself a set of star head screwdrivers from Screwfix, so I'll leave a link to that. I think that's a T30, but mine has long rubbed off what it actually is on the back, but I think it's a T30, and there are just 2 of those screws. This should just lift off once you've taken those 2 screws out, like so. Next up, we're going to take this center section here out. Now there are 2 screws holding on, and this is just a little hinged popper, and you just pop it up from below, revealing the screw. This is a smaller one, I think this is T15, can't quite read that, but if you buy the whole set of these screwdriver bits, you'll have one that fits that. After you've taken these 2 torque screws out here, there's a couple more of those push pins holding this piece of plastic on. There's one here, and there's one at the other end just there. So once again, you've got to get your nails or a screwdriver under there and just leave that up so that you can take that fitting out. Once you've got both of those push pins out, this should just lift off like that. Once you've got that off, I'd suggest you put these back in there so you do not lose the pins or the fittings. Now just before we take that centerpiece out, which you should be able to do now, I'm actually going to put the boot lid or the trunk lid in service mode, because when you put it in service mode, it moves these plastic parts here, which you need to be out the way so that you can take off this side bit and the strut that we're trying to get to, I believe, lives somewhere under there. But what I want to just double check, I'm not sure about this, is whether you can take this side piece out without having to take this out. So I'm going to put the boot in service mode now and see if I can get that side piece out. So in order to get this trunk lid or boot lid in service mode, first of all we're going to close it, and then we're going to operate the roof. And when the roof is at that angle, but before the flaps come up, we're going to stop, and then we're going to use the metal key from the key fob to try and open that up. Before you can put the roof down, you need to put something in here that wedges that switch open. So we're just going to use a couple of bits of plastic that will hopefully do that job, like so. And then we close the boot lid. What you want is the boot in this position before these flaps here open, and in theory what we should be able to do now is put the metal key in here, turn it 90 degrees, open the boot, and this should spring up and be supported in mid-air in a very unnatural position. So let's just see how that goes. The key fob, this here is the metal key, and to get it out you just need to slide this back and pull. There you go. Now if you've got the boot in the right position, all you have to do is insert the key into the lock, like so, turning that anti-clockwise. Okay, anti-clockwise as far as it goes, and then in theory when we pop this handle here, that boot should spring out. That is how you put the boot into service mode. It looks really weird. I've no idea how stable that is. It looks pretty stable, and that has got these plastic bits here out the way. It should allow us to go in there and remove the remainder popper screws and take that side piece of carpet out. So you're going to move this roof all the way back here because we need to, in order to get this piece of carpet out, there's a screw there which is covered by that. So we've got to take this out, two of those poppers, and 3 screws along the bottom there. When you come to take this out, don't forget there's a popper right at the end, one of those little pull-out things right at the end. Don't forget that one. And these 2 are your torque screws, and there's another torque screw here. I'm also going to have to remove this here. Just screws out. Try not to drop the screws. 2 are just held in by torque screws. When you take this piece here off, there's actually going to be a plug attached to it, so don't just yank it off. Lift it up slowly and carefully, and then unplug it. This should just pull straight out. I have to wiggle it back and forwards a little bit, like so. But everything is now undone, and it's just going to be a matter of wiggling it out. I'm going to see if I can get it out without removing this center section. Normally you'd remove this first, but I want to see if it's possible to get this out without doing that. So you're going to need to unclip it from the rubber fairing, wiggle it about. When you are taking this out, it's really important to remember how it goes back in. It tucks in under this rubber seal here. Now from here, once you've got this loose, you could in theory take that out without taking this whole piece out. I imagine it'd be possible if you bent it back, but we're actually going to take this whole piece out because I'm not 100% sure how that plug comes off, and I want to have a good look at it and make sure I don't damage it. Okay, so there we have that piece out. Now, don't do what I just did and crack that there. I don't think anybody will ever notice, but this plastic is very brittle after 20 years, so don't bend it back that way. So this is the top of the hydraulic strut, and this in the top is a sensor that's just held in with these 3 clips, and it's plugged in, and you should just be able to extract it and replace it with a non-faulty version. Sounds nice and simple. Let's see how it works out in practice. Now, to get this plug off, there's a little hinge here that you have to push in, and then hopefully it's just a matter of levering the plug out. Oops, like so, that's it. Okay, there we go. So here is a little thing that you have to push in like so, and then that should just pull out, and in theory these clips here should just clip back and allow us to take that out without dropping them. There we go. Okay, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. Just remind yourself of how those clips go on. That's the top of the clip there, the bottom is slightly different. So once you've unplugged that and undone the clips, in theory you should just be able to lift this out like so. What you want to avoid doing is getting any dirt or dust or anything down there. So if you haven't already got the replacement, you should cover that up with something. In this particular case, we have got the replacement. It arrived just 2 days after ordering it from the Netherlands over the Christmas period. Quite spectacular, really well packaged, and there it is. It should just be a matter of sliding that in, and that should be almost job done. In theory, all we've got to do is just pop this baby in there, and that should be job done. I'm avoiding touching it with my hands and getting any oil, grease or anything else on there. I imagine that's quite important. Okay, where's the plug? The plug is here. So I'm just pushing that down. And that should be as much as we need to do. Obviously, we've got to get these clips back on, and we've got to retrieve the one that we lost. But I can't imagine that that is going to be a major problem. Put those 3 clips on nice and tight. We just need to plug that in, make sure that's in properly, which it is. It's worth just reflecting while we've got this side panel off what else you can gain access to. So for example, one of the problems with these R230 SLs is over time these hydraulic pistons here start to leak. When they start to leak, your roof will start to struggle to go up and down, and you may need to actually change this piston. So you can get access to the piston here, although these lines actually snake all the way down, and you would probably have to take this center panel here out, which shouldn't be any problem at all, in order to access that. So I'm going to have a go at putting this car back together, and I imagine the trickiest bit is actually going to be to put that side panel back in and get it clipped in underneath this seal. So we'll have a go at doing that. I'm going to start by trying to get this bit on this way round. So I'm just hooking this edge underneath this plastic. Remember, this plastic's quite brittle and can crack. I'm going to see if I can just maneuver this bit here over here next. So we've managed to maneuver this into this position, so that's just hooked over there. It's kind of underneath this piece of plastic, and we just need to now figure out how to get this down there without damaging any of these wires or pipes. That wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be. This bit at the top is quite flexible. And once you've got this roughly in place, you've just got to get this seal bent over the top of it. Now, what you could do is put a little piece of cord or rope underneath the seal, and then when you pull out the rope, it'll kind of lift the seal over. If you haven't got a piece of cord or rope, or you can actually just get your fingers underneath it carefully and push and fold it all over like that. Try and do it without damaging the seal in any way, although the seal is quite thick seal, so I'm kind of pushing down and lifting the seal up with my fingers, hoping that I'm not going to untuck the bit that I've already tucked in. All of that seal tucked under there. Next up, we need to tuck this bit under here, so it looks like that. Once you've got this piece back in, clipped it under the seal, clipped it under here, you've got 3 of these, one at the back, one here, make sure the holes line up, and one here. Then you just need to lock those in with these little pins, 2 and 3 up the back there. Where are you? Right up there. Got those 3 buttons in. Next up, we're going to put this little clip here back on. Then we've just got 3 of these little fittings here to put in, 1, 2, and a 3rd one there. My advice for these fittings is to have them moving up like that when you put them on, all the same, so when you come to take them off again, if you ever need to, you know which way they actually clip up. So we've got the 3 poppers in, the 3 screws, 1, 2, 3. Next up, we're gonna put this fitting back on. When you're putting this out on, try not to clamp the wire behind it. This is the roof switch here. Take a careful look at it. Make sure when you plug it in, you're plugging the plug-in the right way and you don't end up inadvertently bending those pins. So there is a flat bit on this plug here and a flat bit at the bottom of the plug. So that slides in like so. And then you should be able to just clip that on and screw it on. Got that bit in, plugged in. Next bit is to put this cover on and attach it here with these 2 screws and the poppers at the back there. When you come to put this piece here on, there are these locating pins here and also here and here. Make sure they're lined up before you start putting those poppers in. When everything's lined up correctly, this will be in there snugly and won't waggle up and down. Next up, you just need to put in these 2 stoppers, one on either side, and we'll be able to, just about see where that is. There. You've got those in. It's just a matter of pushing these little things in. It's quite difficult to see behind there. There you go. Now that we've got that piece in, just before I put the top piece in, I'm actually going to just move this hood down and put it back into position and see if we can lock it back into its correct position and close the boot and then open the boot normally. Okay, that is the boot locked in place, and I've turned the key and I'm going to take that key out of there now. Now if we've done everything right, we should just be able to get into the car and retract that roof or close the roof properly and see if we still got that ABC fault. Okay, let's see what happens if we start the car and put the roof down. Okay, hard top closed. That's a good sign. And do you know what? No ABC fault. Now that is amazing. That is how you replace a height sensor on one of these SL55s. Now I don't quite know if that's job done yet. Everything works as it should and the ABC fault is no longer showing on the dash, but I'm not sure if you have to recalibrate the height or not. One thing I am sure about is that the old parts you'll need to send back to Holland, because when you buy them you put a €50 deposit on there, you send it back and you get your deposit back. We've checked the roof operation, everything seems to be working fine. Next up we just need to replace the cover, put the 2 screws on, put those plastic covers back on, put everything back together down here. So all we have to do is hook that hook on there and line that hole up with that there. Next up we're going to clip these side attachments back in here, like so, and then remember to put in the little pin in there as well. Do the same on the other side, and then there are 5 poppers that you need to clip down at the back. The easiest way to snap those poppers on is when this is in this position. Just finally remember to put these things in here. We didn't actually need to take these screws out in the end. Not for this job. I'm sure that in the future we will have to be replacing some of the hydraulic lines, etc. But at the moment, everything's working just fine. Final test I want to do is to see whether this car actually raises up and down. If you press this button once, it raises up to the first level, and if you press it again, it raises up to the second level. So let's just have a look and see what happens when we press that button. Yep, I can see that that is indeed raising up. Perfect. That is job done. I've taken the car for a little test drive. Just started raining now. The car goes up and down as it should. There's no lights on the dash. We didn't need to reset anything. I'm not sure whether you're supposed to take it to start and recalibrate the height, but I haven't done that. I'm just going to finish the video with links to the site in Holland where you can get rebuilt height sensors and also rebuilt struts in actual fact. So just to reiterate, if you had that ABC problem and you took that to a Mercedes dealer, or you took it to a non-Mercedes specialist, or even a Mercedes specialist that wasn't aware that you could actually replace just that plunger, you could end up spending hundreds if not thousands of pounds replacing the whole strut. The time involved to replace just that plunger is about 3 hours. So if you're not into doing the job yourself and you take it to an indie garage, a Mercedes specialist, don't be surprised if they charge you about 3-hour labour fee for that job. We got that height travel sensor from these guys here in Holland, abcspecialist.nl. They sell a huge variety of parts, not just for the SL, but for a huge variety of cars. So we're here, this is the SL55, and you can see that they actually sell refurbished struts here for €800. Now you do have to send your old struts into them and you pay a deposit when you do that. So where is the height sensor? Can't quite find it. I think this is the height sensor here. This is priced in euros, obviously. I think we paid £158 and it arrived in super quick time. What happens is you pay £158 and €50 on top of that to deposit, and then you send them back the old plunger and you get your deposit back. But it is definitely worth bearing these guys in mind if you've got an R230 and you're planning on doing any work to it yourself, because these prices are significantly cheaper than you'd get at Mercedes or indeed anywhere else that I've seen. As I mentioned in the previous video, we got our car scanner from LJM Diagnostics, the iCarsoft version 2 Mercedes scanner, £126. So I think we paid a few pounds in postage as well. When you buy it, they do send you a loyal customer code, so you could try putting that in the promo and seeing if you can get that a bit cheaper. You'll need a TX screwdriver set, which we got from these guys here, Screwfix. I can't remember, we bought ours a while ago, I don't remember paying that much for it, but those 5 screwdrivers there have got all the sizes you need to take out that boot lining